how it goes. Okay.
So you got a review from Rajesh? No, he's not come out. He's come, but no. Okay. Okay. So, okay. So what do you want me to do? You want me to just generally tell about
Yes. Okay. So, hi guys. So this is Patrick, fresh out of the oven. And Patrick's test was actually an oven because he had to like move from two places. His computer shut down. Why don't you tell us? Like, what exactly was the test taking experience like per se?
This year, normally I have a good test taking experience. So the experience has been always good. This year it was really bad, right? From the center to maybe everything. So first of all, I normally have a habit of going to a loop just before the exam, immediately before. Here too, the loo was not available. You have to walk 100 meters to go to the loo and come back. So I just gave up right there completely. Secondly, when I came in, there are two locations in the same compound. So one is near, one was far, that 100 meters away. So I was sent to a 100 meters away location. And there, after they were standing in the line and checking that this one, they said, no, yours in the other location. So I had to go back to the other location. So if it was only me, it was okay. But I saw this happening with a lot of people. I saw a lot of people having the same problem. Half the people get put in different locations. So just before the exam started, people had to run to the location to just sit. So very bad experience. Third, when I sat in my center, normally I have enough time to sleep for half an hour and then write the paper. I sat in the center and the paper already started. It was 2 minutes and I had to start the paper. So I'm imagining people who are behind me, they had to actually sit and start the paper.
No, just 1 minute. You were not allowed to, there was no 15, there's usually 15-20 minute time period before you were allowed to, sit on the computer, go through the tutorial, etc.
But by the time I reached 8:30, the paper had to start. By the time I reached my desk, it was 8:25 past. So already instruction come that you can start the paper.
Okay.
I don't know, I could wait or not wait. I started the paper, but yes, I mean, normally I sleep. This time the experience was not very great. Let me put it this way. Then when I started the paper, every time I click, nothing happens. When I click double time, then it slowly moves and goes to the next slide after 2 seconds. So every time it took 2 seconds. And not only me, my neighbor also had the same problem. So first time the PC shut down, the person came, I told him the PC is slow. He said, no, it's a server problem. Everyone has the same problem. I said, how can you say that in an exam? So, okay. The second time a PC shut down, they put me in some other place and all noise, because all the commotion going on, and that was this, so the test taking experience was really bad. Okay. Coming to the paper itself, so they had mentioned at the start of the instruction that there will be 4 questions in each RC set. So there was no,
So when you looked at the instruction itself, you knew that VA, LRDI had changed.
Time, I luckily glanced it, but yeah, you can make out that there were 4 questions, and they mentioned LRDI had 4 or 6 questions. Okay. It was mentioned in instructions, so you had no ambiguity out there. So you knew that every RC had 4 questions. You knew LRDI could have 4 or 6 questions. So we started with RC, saying 24 questions. Let's start RC. So gone about. Passages were not really tough, I would say. But as I said, I felt the questions a little tricky. My personality. Anyway, VRC is not my forte at all. And so I found the questions a little bit tricky, and that could, be a overall, I thought a person who was good could complete the paper, who normally completes the paper last year, like 26 questions, who could complete the paper, who could complete the paper.
Complete the full VARC.
Possible to complete, yes. For a person who normally, so it's like a normal speed. VRC, I didn't find any major surprises. Like a normal, if you're normally doing well, you'll do well, okay. If you're normally doing badly, you'll do badly, okay. It's the same process. No, so I think it'll be the same thing for, it is not major surprise, like the toughness has gone very high or the toughness has gone very low. It is like the same as what we expect for a VRC as far as CAT.
So it's not as easy like 2017.
No, I don't think it was as easy. Questions at least were not. Even passages could be understood. Passages could be understood, but the questions were little. You have to understand the question, then go back and read the question. Have I read the question correctly, and all that. That was a little clear part.
What were the topics like? If you would remember offhand, straight up.
The topic was
anything like the British colonialism, systematic racism, and all that thing.
Racism was not there. With regards to British, something tea was there. How the tea was marketed across the globe and became this one. That was one passage on tea that I know of. Second was one book review was there. I forgot the topic as such, sort of about a book and what was written, how it was written. there was no specific, except for a marketing topic of tea. I don't think there was anything otherwise economic or management topic. Then there was some topic on philosophy. I don't even remember what it was. But yeah, self-control. Some experiment was done with some particular fish and regarding self-control, and that based on that there was a question. Third passage, 3, and one more.
Then there are like 8 VA questions.
8 VA questions.
Okay.
Right.
So do you think like compared to last year you had to do 26 questions in 40 minutes. This year you have 24 questions in 40 minutes. Do you think the difficulty levels were roughly the same? More?
I don't know. Maybe people will find it easier. I don't know. I found it similar to last year.
Okay. Not very easy, not very
easy, not very tough.
Okay.
Maybe but yeah, okay. Not very easy, not very tough. Okay. See, last year also questions were tricky. This also I felt the questions were tricky.
Okay, now let's move to LRDI because that is something which has like really played with people's mind. So
yeah, LRDI
I got a message from Arc saying that it is like 20 questions. I said, okay, fine. So 5 sets of 4 each. He said, no, 2 sets of 4 and 2 sets of 6. I said like, oh, yeah, I mean, basically that is the point where basically like I knew like people are going to like mess it up. So how was your experience?
Not bad. BR was really bad. So I first set it to 20 minutes. I thought I could have easily cracked it in 8, 9.
This is a 6 question set.
6 question set. I picked up a 6 question set because LR was my 40 and I would pick up 6 question set. Because 4 sets. So if I leave a 6 question set and solving 14 questions, not make sense. In the end, I solved around 14 or 15 questions only. But yes, I did silly mistakes. I mean, silly mistakes in a sense, instead of solving the set completely and then going to the questions, because the questions were directly based on the set. If you could solve a set completely and go to questions, you would have got the answers. Mm-hmm. I did a mistake of solving the set halfway and going to the questions. And then coming back to the questions. I realized that this was not the way. I should have sat properly, solved a set completely, and then gone to the questions. I would have got that 6 and 6, 12. It would have taken time. It's not an easy set. It takes time, but could have got it as such. But yes, the key is that the questions are time consuming. Okay, it's that you have to put that data properly down, get the whole thing done and get the answer. And you could get the answer. So it was time consuming. That was a bigger problem. So that means by the time maybe you would have got 1 set complete, if you had not got it in the first round, you could build on a pressure and that could create a problem.
Okay, so if you want to discuss like what were the topics like, I heard there was like one which was pure DI, calculation based.
Okay. I didn't even look at it, but yeah, there was one DI. I believe it was easy. I thought I'll keep for the end because DI you can actually solve individual questions. Logic you can't solve individual questions. I kept it for the end and I didn't get time to come back to it.
Okay.
Because so one was a pure DI. That was a loss to me. I thought it could have been solved.
Okay. What about there was one which was mixed of DI?
Yeah. So one was something like, okay, one was a question on, there were friends, then strangers and acquaintance, 3 parts, 7 people. And you have to match, like, he is an acquaintance of this and this guy is acquaintance of that. So how many people acquaintance, all that has to be matched. Again, on hindsight, it looked easy. Under exam, I took 20 minutes. And I'm even not sure of the answers for that. Let's be very clear with that. But on hindsight, that set looked easy. If I had just put the set down and got the complete set and then got to the questions, I could have easily got the answers. But that's in the hindsight. But in the exam, I do. So that's normally there. So that was the only set I thought was solvable. The second one, which was there, was the matrix-based set, which was based on 8 people writing papers. They were published in 4 different journals. They will belong to 3 different countries. They belong to 3 different, like automation, this one, 3 different. So a lot of variables, a lot of groups and variables. And then a matrix-based conditions given. All right. But yes, considering that there's so many variables, I mean, it took time to put the data down to get the complete full information, then get the answer. It took that time.
So you're talking about 6 people, 7 people, 4 friends. How many friends?
8 people.
8 people into countries, into...
There were 3 countries. Yes. 4 were from India, 2 were from Japan, and 2 from China.
Then you have
then there were
organizations.
Different areas. 4 from logistics, 2 from automation, 2 from manufacturing. Then you had 4 different journals, different months of journals that they had published.
It's almost like a bank period.
But the questions were not direct. Questions were like, It is not very simple.
It's like those many levels of attributes which you add. Even though it's technically it's just an arrangement with multiple attributes, it's painful. I can already say, and these are things which repeat. It's not like they are all unique. It's not like there are 8 countries, 8 journals, 8. That is still probably a little manageable, but these are like repeated. This is repeatable.
Matrix, you have to look at the other aspects about it and match it and then go. So could have been done. Again, the same mistake I did. I should have solved a complete set and then gone to questions. I went in between the question and it took time for me to understand the set and so.
Okay.
So I don't even remember what I solved.
There was, so you have spoken about one calculation which you did not particularly see. There was one which was the arrangement one. Then you said there was one mixed between LR and DL, matrix sort of thing. And then there is a fourth one.
One more one which was there, which was a mix between a LR and DI.
Okay.
It also had a table which you had to fill up.
Okay.
Forgot what was the table. 4 questions. I just forgot.
Okay. So you're saying that, and before we started, you said like this is not a paper which you would like because there is not enough choice for students. As a student, it will be very difficult for a person.
Even a CAT setter, I would look at a person who's good at making choices. But here is no choice at all. You don't have choice. So, a CAT is known for giving you choices and you pick up the right choice and make a good decision. Here, I don't know whether there was enough time. First of all, DILR less time is real painful. And only 4 sets gives you very few choices as such. In that case, it becomes very difficult to. The choices well. Let me put it.
Okay. Just one more question besides this is that, see, you have all these, last year we had this, like there were 3 questions which were doable and the 6 question set. There were 3 questions which required a first level of solving and the remaining 3 probably required another level of solving. Slightly more trickier ones. Were that something like that? Or?
I would not say you could get maybe a few questions without solving the complete set, but it was good that if you could solve a complete set, you'd get the 6 questions straight.
Okay. So you have to like spend that time to get the full set.
Preferably. That is a trick. Normally when you can get some hints and then go with the question. Here it was always preferable to solve the complete set, get the whole solution, and then look at the.
So no Venn diagrams, nothing.
No Venn diagram.
No games and tournaments, the people usually. So basically, what do you call it? It's the basics of DI, right? Arrangements, distribution, and
matrix.
DI. Matrix and DI. Nothing out to. So people cannot complain per se in terms of I didn't know that there is a set like this. And then, or this is like very unconventional sort of.
It is a combination of 2-3 concepts put together and given to you, and then therefore you become very confusing. Else, it is known, familiar sets as it's so.
And one last, couple of questions in the DILR. Were there like ambiguous questions? Like, what could be the answer? Like max, min, optimization sort of thing. Incomplete data, so you have to go back to the question.
As I said, if you had solved a complete set, then you could have.
You will get. So there is no ambiguity.
No ambiguity. But yes, if you don't solve the set, then there is no ambiguity. Then you have to get confused and forget.
Okay. Roughly, you said 2 sets are enough to get a 90%. You stick
More
with
than
it?
that. Maybe 8 questions correct would have given you a 90 plus for sure. 5 maybe.
So 8 questions also, 4 question sets is good enough for
95 plus. Yes.
95 plus. Okay.
With only 20 questions, you miss out 1 6 question set, you're already down to 14. And you can't assume all the other 3 sets to be correct.
Yes.
So it is.
It's painful. More than anything else, it's painful.
So I believe that the cutoffs will be slightly on a lower side for DILR. Again, I will be wrong. I'm not saying mine this one, but I feel that a cutoff for DILR, at least in the first slot, will be comparatively on a lower side because of the lack of. I didn't see the first set, so I don't know about it. How the DI was. If the DI was simple, then yes, maybe the cutoff may go higher. But DI was tough, then maybe it could take a longer.
Okay. Now, once you have gone through all this, you enter maths QA. How was maths? Same as previous years, etc. What exactly?
Yeah, I would say different. It's similar. You could solve it as such, which was possible. So you can say that 22 questions. Number of questions were less than verbal. So that was fine. So last year 26, so it came out 22. Last year, I think the question slightly shade difficult than last year. Shade difficult. I'm not saying much difficult. Shade difficult than last year. Last year the paper was easier. This year maybe the paper could be a little tougher because number of questions were reduced. So obviously, and because the number of questions were reduced, I think they put a couple of questions which were little speed breakers, 1 or 2 questions, which would take you time to get the answer to it and solve it. So yes, but yes, it was solvable. So there were work questions, there were permission questions, there was allegation simple question. So there were questions which was there, mixtures, the normal question which you normally expect.
So nothing, I mean, the distribution did not change. I mean, there are a lot of geometry questions, a lot of arithmetic questions, a lot of...
Yeah, so similar logic, similar way to solve, similar substitute values, pattern formation. So familiar, if you people have gone through the previous CAT papers, I think it was familiar. I don't think it was like something extraordinary which you need to think about and try to get the answer. It was solvable. I mean, there's nothing surprise about, except maybe I said a couple of questions could be speed breakers. If you can skip that, then the whole paper could have been done.
Okay. So usually with quant on the type of paper that you're describing, usually 50% of the section is good enough for a 98+%, 95 to 98+%. Holds good this time also. 11 questions, 12 questions, 11 to 12 questions for a 95.
Yes, yeah, you can say it.
Okay. Anything in quant which stuck to your head, like any particular type of questions, like which you thought like, okay, this is nice. I mean, at the end of it, maza aa gaya. It's worth taking the trouble, going through all that pain, etc.
No, I didn't. To very frankly, I didn't again like the questions per se. It was nothing which was really new. I mean, it was more of familiar. So for a person who's prepared well, they would find a lot of familiarity in the questions.
In terms of length of questions, did people have to read through a lot, or it's like straight 1 or 2 line questions only?
No, there were 3 or 4. They're not very lengthy questions, but yeah, you can say 3 line, and not a 1-liner question also. So 3-line, 4-line questions, which was there. There was like that log questions, which was didn't get it left out. And there was some question which was little, but otherwise, could have it.
And theta versus options, roughly the same. I mean, like how many theta did you think? I mean, 6 or 7? 6 or 7?
No idea about it.
Okay, because I think VA in the in the VA section, you had like 8 VA questions, right? I'm assuming all of them were theta.
Not necessarily. Parasummary is not theta.
Parasummary is not theta. Okay. And for LRDI, how many theta were? Okay, you didn't count. You didn't count. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. I mean, like, there has to be like a couple of parts. Okay. So now that you have fixed like something like this, so VARC, you're saying it's roughly similar to what you had last year. LRDI looks deceptively tough, actually. It looks easy, but it looks easy on the eyes, but maybe actually pretty difficult to work with, right? That is what you're saying. And QA is probably slightly trickier than last year. Okay.
But because number of questions were lesser, so it was solvable.
It was solvable. Okay.
So because number of questions were less, so in last year, that questions were certainly so high that it was a surprise element that you have to solve so many questions. This year, the questions were less. So that means people could solve it. It's not that it is not solved.
So what are you like roughly looking at overall cutoff? Because like overall, if you have, I mean, now it's also like 66 questions in 120 minutes, right? It's roughly that.
When you're looking at cutoffs, the cutoff for slot 1 could be very different from slot 2 and slot 3. So anyone who is going to slot 2 and slot 3 and looking at this, but
I'm talking about slot 1. Let's forget about. We'll not be looking at slot 2 and slot 3 right now.
I'm just telling general people that when you're going for slot 2 or slot 3 next slot, don't compare the number of questions of slot 1 with other slots.
Yes.
Because that could be deceptive. Because last year it was seen that the toughness of these sets went different in different slots. So number of questions solved were different. So don't look at number of questions. But yeah, if I look at slot 1 per se, in terms of LRD, VARC cutoff is similar to last year, scoring pattern. 2 questions less, so maybe that number of marks may go down a little bit, but overall I think the same. LRDI last year also was tough. Last year it is a 1 more question choice. Since I don't know about DI, very difficult to come this one, but I think the cutoff could go down as compared to last year for sure. For DIR.
So let's look at, I mean, usually if you look at projections wise per se, usually, I mean, like this is the reason why I put up that 2/3 part is when you had that 100-mark paper, right? It was roughly like 100 questions, 180 minutes. Last year was an aberration, 76 questions in 120 minutes, which is like the ratio is completely off, right? Whereas now we have again 66 questions in 120 minutes, roughly about one question for every 2 minutes, which is like the classic CAT paper as such, right? Those things usually end up roughly at this stage. I mean, like if you hit like a 50% of the total marks, you end up somewhere around 98%. Would you say 98 to 98.5%?
99. I think, yeah, I think.
Yeah, 98 to 98.5. So if it is a little difficult.
Around, look, there are 66 questions. So you're talking about totally around 200 marks, 190.
So around 100 marks. So 100 marks.
But last year, the 100 marks was 99%.
That's what I'm saying. See, last year we had to evaluate it. Last year we had to evaluate it in a slightly different manner. Instead of looking at half the paper, we had to evaluate it as one question for every 2 minutes. That's how we had to end up evaluating.
I think cutoff will be lower than last year.
Lower than last year. Okay. And especially slot 1, you're saying it's going to be lower.
Yeah, I'm talking only slot 1. Slot 2, slot 3, I don't.
Slot 2, slot 3, yeah. Nobody knows. Nobody knows
slot what. The cutoff will be lower than last year for sure.
Okay.
I mean, DLR could put down and Quant will also push it a little down. So, because number of questions are lower. So, one is the number of questions will automatically push the cutoff lower. Papers are a similar difficulty level. So, actually, if I could maximize the scores in Quant and DLR, I would have scored more higher, much higher. But this is since I have not so many questions to attempt, so automatically my questions will go down.
Okay. So, besides, you have any complaints besides the test taking experience? Like overall, when you come out of CAT, you basically say, okay, I enjoyed my 2 hours. I mean, that which I spent in the session. Because obviously you're not doing it for getting into a college person, right? I mean, you're doing it to like test your sharpness, etc. And you want excitement at the end of it, right? I mean, like it should be the 2 hours should be worthwhile.
I'm only looking at student perspective. So in the student perspective, as I said earlier, I don't like the 2 hours. Because there's no choice, there's no time to recover in DLR set. The biggest problem is DLR. Everyone faces a problem in DLR. If I take little extra time in one set, my whole DLR is ruined. It is no chance. And I've seen the variation in DLR being very, very high. So it can make or break your entire paper. So max and verbal writing is okay. I'm not even saying that it's bad or good, decent, and would go about it. I'm not really happy with the DLR section. Okay, purely because I think a CAT should test you on choices, and it does test whether you make the right choice or not. And once you pick up a right choice, then you solve it properly. That's the reason you have a CAT paper, to ensure that you take good management decisions. But I don't know. I'm happy with the verbal section, the way it is. I'm happy with the Quant section, the way it is. No question about it.
LR, you have a lot of complaint because
even Quant, to be very frank, there were a couple of questions which I'm not happy about. Okay,
like,
because
I mean, if you can
familiar sets, the familiar questions. So if I knew the concept, I could answer the question.
So I mean to say it was very technical rather than
not formula based, but okay. Yes, you need to know that one specific concept. If you knew that concept, you could solve it. But CAT is not.
You have a particular example? I mean, do you know what
so
you
in a 3-digit number when you reverse it?
Okay. 999. So that's
the difference is 99.
Yeah, 99. Sorry. Yeah.
So you know it's 198, the difference is 2.
Yeah.
Straight away. If I know this concept, I know the answer.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
If I don't know this concept, I can't solve this.
Okay. Okay.
So CAT is normally not based on concept driven. This one I know the concept and therefore I should get the answer. CAT is normally logical based, where I derive it based on logic. So most of the questions were logic based. There were this couple of questions which I thought was little concept.
Okay. Okay. So, so here we are. I mean, like we'll stop at this because like Patrick will also need to. I mean, probably after like 1 hour or 2 hours, you'll probably have maybe a slightly different. throwback. And when you actually speak with other people also, like you will have to probably figure out like, okay, this might be this. You might have actually realized that, okay, I actually did better than what I think it is. Because usually you are pretty hard on yourself. But yeah, I mean, so we'll stop at this, guys. In case you like this, please share this with your friends. Don't, as I said, a health advisory. I don't think anyone who's in slot 2 is watching this, but anybody who's in slot 3 who's watching this, please do not take this as, you can look at the pattern. Yeah, you can look at the pattern. You can look at the pattern, but don't think that the difficulty level is going to hold, because last year, you can just go through the comments of last year and figure out like what exactly happened. So yeah, thanks, Patrick. We'll catch up again, and guys, be sure to catch up the rest of the sessions as well.